So, welcome to Satsang, and it's beautiful to have a few new friends here. So for us here, which you know already, and for the friends who come online, there's a possibility at a certain point, I don't know when, where you can ask questions or where you can share something, and the best way is actually to come here, because then they hear you, otherwise the friends around the world don't hear you. And for the people around the world, if you have a question or a comment, you can write it, and our friend Steve will read it to me. He will give me a little sign that there's somebody that has a question. And God is calling already. So these evenings, as you may remember, for the old friends, they're always kind of spontaneous, and I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. It depends a little bit on who is here. So, welcome. And somehow I feel inclined to start a silent sitting meditation this evening with a little bit of a flute. I'm not a virtuoso, so if there's a professional flute player, don't run out. It's just to get us a little bit in tune. And then we're going to sit for about 20 or 30 minutes, we will see. A little reminder for the new friends of meditation: you cannot succeed or fail in meditation. You cannot achieve anything in meditation. So meditation is actually just a space where you and we all allow everything to be as it is. Now that sounds very easy, no? Because what is already, but that for our mind, for our becoming mind, seems to be the most challenging. Can I let the tensions in my body be, for example, without arguing? Can I let my sense of unworthiness or shame be, if that appears? Can I let my joy be? Can I let the story that moves in my mind be? Can I let everything be? And there's an amazing effect on this, because the moment we allow everything to be as it is, we are no more divided, because the only division that we constantly try to maintain is me with her or his experiences and the resistance to them, or the rejection or the attachment to them. So when I have a great thought and I attach to it, then I don't want to have another thought, because I want to hold on to this thought, and we are already caught, we are already divided. But the moment we allow everything to be as it is, this I that survives through attachment or resistance simply disappears, because it has never been real. Is that too much? Can you follow this? Now, whatever I say, don't believe it. It's more like a pointer to explore. Aha! If I let everything be, then I don't... For example, if I let everything be, then I see what I see. what our mind usually does when it sees something, it puts a label on it immediately. For example, these poor roses. Once upon a time they were very alive. Now they're at the edge. Probably they allow everything to be as it is, so they don't mind letting their head hang. But when we see them, there's a thought coming that labels what we see, and then we don't see the object anymore. We see our thought about it. Can you relate to that? Yeah. Now, you may see a guy that has a name Rahasya here, and you have probably thoughts about this guy, and it has nothing to do with me. They're your thoughts. If we understand this is very relaxing, because then it's not my business what you think of me. And vice versa. It's not your business what I think of you. And all that has a break if we allow everything to be as it is. And that includes all the senses. Now we will sit with closed eyes. But even with closed eyes, we have kind of light and shadow behind the eyelids. And then we have the auditory sense, maybe some sounds of people moving, or sounds of breathing, or sounds of my voice. And then we have perhaps a fragrance that we are aware of, or a taste if you just had dinner. And then we have physical sensation. We feel, we're total feeling beings. We constantly feel different things. Now when we allow everything to be as it is, you will find everything keeps flowing, it keeps changing. And if you don't attach to any change, there may be a moment where in these 20 minutes of silent sitting, you start struggling with your body because the body feels uncomfortable, until you remember, can I just let the discomfort be? And that naturally creates a space where the opposites within us, the schizophrenia that we all are. Sorry, but I think most of us are quite more or less schizophrenic. Like so many voices in our head. All that has no ground, and then it can relax. And we go deeper and deeper. And if you have a sense that suddenly you disappear and your mind says, oh, now I'm sleeping, don't worry about it. Just if one of your neighbors starts snoring, then you can gently wake them back up, because it's not really sleep. You're going beyond story. And for some of you, including me, when I go beyond story, this is why it's good that you have your eyes closed, my head sometimes falls, and everything looks like sleep. And yet there's something that is aware of this. And that which is aware never changes. That's the only thing that never changes. Okay? So you can close your eyes, and hopefully it's not too disturbing when I play. The intention is to let the sounds move into silence. If we start with the opposite, it's always easier, from action to inaction, from sound to silence. So enjoy. deep breath, maybe a little movement in the body, a little stretch. Kate made us such a beautiful mandala here with flowers, and it's kind of beautifully symbolic. I always like to dedicate the light of a candle eventually in these meetings. It's a symbolic gesture as we bring light, which is consciousness, to what is. The what is reveals some hidden treasures, if you like. So everything of beauty starts from the formless, and our human personality is so afraid of the formless, of nothing, of space. But when we allow it, then from nothing appears all this beauty, unexpectedly. Is there anything you would like to hear me talking about? Anything that is... Usually it's nice to, to investigate something personal, because nothing is really personal. It's pretty much, we are all humans and we all have situations that maybe sometimes are challenging, or we don't know a way out. Or we're looking for a way out, forgetting that there's a way in. Or maybe around the world there's somebody who has a question or a comment. I remember somebody asked last time and the time before, and I found the question only later, and now I forget to read it again. So I don't know, I'm sorry. Maybe you can ask again if you're online with me today. Life is just such an incredible mystery. Many of you kind of followed my personal journey with wanting to travel to Europe, because there's full courses waiting in Sweden and in Germany. And I made 2 applications, I think 6 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago, and I did not get any answer. And on the 1st of July I had to cancel everything because they wouldn't let me out. Now, today, actually yesterday evening, I got a mail. Your departure is on the 18th of July, and you're allowed to leave. That's tomorrow. So, it's useless. Everything is cancelled. We have given all the money back to the people. It's crazy. So there's these little kind of big disturbances that can be interpreted in many different ways. I had a little bit of a sleepless night and wondering, shall I go? Maybe I go for a nice holiday in the Alps. But then I said, no. I stay here. We have satsang. We have a retreat. Eventually, I want to have a transforming lives training, a 6-day training. It's been kind of overdue, which will probably happen at the end of August or beginning September. So I have other ways to keep me busy. But these, you know how our mind functions. It's like you wait and you wait and you wait, and then you totally give up. But it has, of course, consequences. And then who knows whose hands were these? It's always God's hands, so of course I can argue. But who knows what it's good for, In any case, I would have to be 2 weeks in quarantine coming back. I don't know who heard me here.
It's the government.
The government, yeah. So there are these little or big teachings about letting go. Letting go. It's an incredible topic because we hear it again and again, and then we try through the mind to let go, but the I cannot let go. The I is the holding on to some kind of identity. So letting go is, in a way, like it's not in our hands. It's like a death of I. Oh. And sometimes you get these big doses. Usually it's just little doses. So this was a big dose for me. It's like, Yes, Steve has his finger up, so let's hear.
This is from Ishka.
Ishka, darling.
Is Ishka a doctor?
Ishka. Is it our Ishka from here?
Massey.
Yeah. Not that I know.
She has a question. I noticed that I have no fear of COVID, but I have fear of the fear that I'm noticing all around me.
Yeah.
Many drivers seem to be driving erratically, and after a day of medical appointments today, I keep hearing all the fear that the medical staff are feeling. Fear of fear itself is very persuasive from my experience. What are your thoughts, please?
And there's many things. It's like the shortcut with fear. Anybody has fear? I think we all have fear, on and off, no? And sometimes the fear moves into panic, no? And the biggest trouble, which you are in, Ishka, also, is that, okay, now you found you're not afraid of the COVID, but you're afraid of fear. So that's even more complicated. Because when you're afraid of fear, then you don't want fear. Now, whatever you don't want is there. If you try to avoid fear, it's stronger. Anything you resist persists. Yeah? So, what to do with fear? Fear begins, in this case, Unless there's a tiger running after you and you have a physical survival fear that helps you to escape or to fight or to freeze, most of our fear starts with a thought. Yeah? I am thinking of people that are afraid of COVID-19, and then I feel fear, and then I project it on these people, saying that I feel their feelings. It's a tendency. Yeah? Now, there's no way out of this, Ishka. But there's a way in. There's this way that I've been exploring for myself through my conditioning. I had an interesting conditioning around fear because my whole youth and much later was governed by fear. I was so afraid of everything. But I had a father who didn't believe in fear. So he called us silk bunnies when we were in German, Seidenhäschen. You know, silk bunnies. And then we had to do what we were afraid of. So the training from very early is whatever you're afraid of, do it. And I'm sure many of you have experienced this when you did something that you were afraid of and you move through the fear, the energy in the cells is still there. It's tingling, it's wild, it's incredibly alive. But the fear turns into joy. It's like when you jump down a 3-meter board into a pool or 5-meter board into a pool. You stand there, and then you hate yourself when you walk back. Or you go, okay. And poof, the fear is gone. You accelerate it. It's a good example. And energetically, when you're in a mental fear, there's different steps. And Ishka, you are aware enough. This is just a habit. Your habit is that you kind of resist your sensitivity, that you feel other people. Well, fear is so common that it helps you to kind of project it on other people, thinking, yeah, they feel so much, and that's why I am so sensitive. That's a Mullumbimby or Byron Bay New Age excuse. Take a breath. Sorry. I'm so sensitive. I feel everybody's pain. Well, guess what? I do feel everybody's pain, especially when I work with people. Is it a problem? Only if I resist it. It's not a problem, it's actually a healing, and I work with it a lot, is when I move, and you have to test that for yourself. I can only kind of point the way. When I move from the story, first I have to become aware, this is a story I'm telling myself, and the body doesn't know the difference between reality and a story, a thought. No? The next step is, okay, it's already happening, I'm trembling like can I invite the sensation and the feeling? It's a physical sensation. My cells freeze, and I'm trembling, and my teeth maybe, how you say in English? Chatter. Zähne klappern. Yeah? And can I invite that? Because that's what it is. It's an embodiment of something that moves me into survival, into fight, flight, or freeze. And when I don't look for what it is, but actually dare to feel the total oneness of fear, is the end of fear. I'm sure some of you have experienced this. When there's no escape anymore. I I remember in my youth, I lived with my parents on a sailing boat, and sometimes, like from 1 year to 8 years, and I was always seasick out of fear, and eventually I got a stomach ulcer at the time. But there were moments where everything was serious because we were in such a storm or in such a intense situation. And then my father was on top of it yelling how impossible failures we are. Yeah, instead of kind of saying it's okay, we will make it. In the worst scenario, you get kind of really slashed by daddy. And he was quite a character, I tell you. It was beautiful, but for little boys, it's a bit shaky. Anyway, it all went to a certain extent. And then when the hitch hit the fan and the mast broke or the sail flew into the air, or one time we lost a propeller in the middle of a storm where we would need, we were drifting onto the shore and we had only sails in a storm and we could only, and it was touch and go whether we would land on a rock or not. And astonishingly, the whole family got totally quiet, totally focused, and we survived and we didn't get stranded. And then I can tell you endless stories like this, that when the shit really hit the fan, we became very calm. You like these adventure stories? I have another one.
Krishna has she says, it's more a case of the fear on the outside makes me nervous because I don't feel much presence from the others because they are doing what they're told and not questioning what really is true. Then she says, I'm waiting for them to feel safe rather than finding my own safe center.
Very good.
Regardless of their state.
Very good. And Ishka, darling, you said the key word. If you want anybody to be present, good luck. You be present. If you are present, it's an energy field that helps other people to become present. If you want somebody else first to be present, you're projecting outside, and you're actually missing to turn in an experience. And you know that you've been there many times. Can you relate to that? I think the adventure story just passed, but the fact that I'm sitting here is actually a miracle, because I should have been dead many times. And the worst part was once I used to run skiing in meditation groups in Switzerland, and I took 5 really good skiers into off-terrain deep powder skiing, and I was with one Italian woman skiing, and suddenly we hear pow, and then the whole slope was a huge avalanche, and we were floating on the avalanche, and nothing happened. And the other friends slowly came afterwards, and then we had to cross another slope where an avalanche had come down. You saw it. You saw that it was already the track of an avalanche. I said, maybe we can go down here. So I crossed, and then one friend crossed, and suddenly the whole mountain let go. And this time it was a huge avalanche, where within a few moments I was totally under the snow, got dark, and I said, okay, this is it. Osho said, stay conscious when you die. So I need to be really present and stay conscious. And miraculously, the avalanche was going still, and it pushed me back out. And I still had my skis on, and everything was still okay. I had my skis together, and I said, wow. And I saw my friend who just had a 3-week-old baby disappear. Then I freaked out. It's like he's a participant and I'm a murderer and so on. I mean, a lot of mindfuck came. I was very calm under the snow, ready to die, but then being pushed up. And then I skied down to a place where I thought he had disappeared, and I was so lucky. There was this much of his boot looking out of the snow. And it took us 2 hours to dig him out, and thanks God he was still alive. And I mean, it's a longer story, but interestingly enough, my own fear about my own survival, it was totally fine, it was totally calm. But the fear of the extended responsibility, that really got me. And then we had to kind of, all the lifts had closed because it took too long, and so we had to climb back up for 2 hours. And the poor guy that got dug out, he was quiet until we came to our chalet. And when we arrived in the chalet, I never saw anybody with such a catharsis. I mean, he totally lost it, but beautifully. He was screaming and yelling and jumping around, and I mean, he totally, this whole intense life energy that was held in his body just kind of exploded in endless catharsis, and then it was fine. And he never came to another group with me. So fear, Ishka, it's a very good topic, We have an inbuilt survival mechanism which is really great, but unfortunately, most of us, most of the time, each time we are stressed, we are addicted to survival hormones, and that's not healthy. We're addicted to adrenaline, cortisol, and all these hormones that focus on our physical survival so that we have enough energy to run, enough energy to fight, or enough energy to become invisible and freeze. And unfortunately now many of us are addicted to that type of stress, and we get sick. Because it's for a short moment, for a short period, it's very helpful, but prolonged, and this is where meditation is very helpful. Or transformation. Fear is a word that has a lot of experiential things happening in the body. And the strange thing, you need to test that for yourself. Take the courage. The worst thing is that you could die. So that will happen anyway, eventually. So when you come into a situation that is really provoking your stress level, and you go in it, my experience is that then the energy that was caught in the first chakra, second chakra, and third chakra moves into quite a mysterious thing. It moves into presence. It moves, if you like it visually, you can imagine, it moves into the empty center. This is my explanation many, many years later about the calm that we experienced in the storm while sailing. It's like all that energy is on the periphery, but you become aware and you are the empty center. And then many, 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 many years later, I realized, wait a minute, this is who I truly am. I am emptiness. I'm not the content. The content happens in that space. Now, this realization has many fancy names, but it's so simple. I was aware of every experience. And what is that? Nobody could define it because that is not an object. I am not an object. That's right. These sounds are really right in the right moment. It's like, really? No? I'm not an object. This is beautiful mantra from Deva, where she sings this mantra from Shiva. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind, I'm not my thoughts. I am Shiva, I am infinite bliss. And it's a long mantra, counting everything that I'm not. And I think it's a beautiful mantra because it points us to everything we can perceive is not me. It's quite amazing. And we have the tendency to make a me out of a fleeting perception. That's why we are so much in survival, to lose the me. But we lose the me constantly. First you had a young me, now you have a middle-aged me, and then now I have an old me, or who knows? That's all not me. And when certain strong beliefs are challenged, they are in the throat. What do you mean? Excuse me. I have a rescue. Thank you. Have you seen this joke where a guy has a little dog in his arms and the dogs start the master starts coughing and the dog says, "Is it you, Corona?" Thank you. I can keep it, that's good. Yes. Does it make any sense to you what I say about fear? Yeah, can you relate to it? So that's one of the practices. No? And it's really a good practice when you find yourself, we find ourselves in stress so often. No? When you're stressed, to stop for a moment, actually move from the thought. It's just a thought. A thought has no substance until we give it a substance. And when we haven't seen the thought, we can always move to the outcome of thought, which creates a feeling, a sensation, an emotion. And then we can meet that. Yes. Steve has
this
another.
Is a political question.
Political. I'm not a politician.
Anna,
Anna. Yes.
our world governments are sharing the same corona,
Yeah.
yet it seems they are separately driving their own needs for power
Yes.
and control. Your thoughts or light on this, perhaps?
Yes. You already put the light on it. Not just every kiss. Sorry, I got the connection went off. That's why I kind of something stopped.
Stepping up
There's endless interpretations about the same fact. No? I also have my interpretation. They drove me nuts with my waiting. But that's my personal story in it. No? I prefer to let it be our intense meditation. Because whatever is, and it cannot be otherwise. There are many players in it and many countries in it, and it affects the whole collective. And I'm kind of really curious if there's anything more conscious coming out of it or not. But since apparently consciousness is interested in its own evolution, who knows whether that's true, but I think so. Because I meet many, many more present people, which means something is obviously happening. Then this whole global thing, even though it is irrational, even though it may be scientifically complete nonsense or not, I don't know. I really don't know. So I would move beyond politics and allow that which is aware of all that's happening to become more and more the foreground, to become more and more that which is important to remember. And that's really powerful because normally all our experiences draw our attention. Any experience draws our attention out of the center to the experience, to the object. And wherever our energy flows is, wherever our attention goes is where our energy flows. And so much energy flows into judgments, into resistance, into fight, into argument, into politics. And that's why everything, the arguments and the politics go bigger. Why not shift our attention and let the energy flow to that space that is aware? And that space has different names. It has the name love. The feminine is probably more familiar with the word love than with space. Masculine loves space because they like emptiness. It doesn't matter, or awareness, or consciousness, or presence, or true nature. It's all the same no thing. It's all the same mysterious, open space that we indicate when we say I. But unfortunately we never investigate the I. That's why we put the I on to your success, until beauty, unto something that keeps changing. And that's why we all freak out, because it comes and we are happy, it goes and we are sad. Or it comes and we are sad and it goes and we are happy. It doesn't matter. It's both the same. The more, and this is why meditation, this is why we're sitting in silence, the more our attention moves towards space, and in physics it's already obvious that even every cell or every physical form is actually made by 99% space and a few particles zooming around with such a speed that we appear solid. So physics and then quantum physics and consciousness come very close together. And that discovery and that insight is actually has many, many consequences. Because the more space we are aware of within, the the less inner struggle there is. And when there's less inner struggle, nature loves to put us in harmony. And then healing becomes possible on a very different level than fighting a sickness. And it has many consequences because, we all in a way look for happiness. And most of us look for happiness to avoid unhappiness. But unhappiness is right underneath it. So you cannot have this kind of happiness without unhappiness. And yet, beyond that is a space that is beyond happiness and unhappiness, but it is experienced in the human being as happiness. Unreasonable happiness, groundless happiness, happiness for no reason. And I'm sure some of us had moments of that. God, I feel so blissful. No? And nature supports us. No? It's like, forgive me, I repeat myself, but we only can say the same thing all the time in different ways. We go to the beach and we see the vast ocean. It makes us happy. Why? Because we see space, we see infinity, we see ourselves. We see the vast sky when the sun shines. Why are we happy? Because we see ourselves, we see our endlessness reflected in the empty sky. And the more we dare to use these triggers to move to the background in which we happen, the more we abide in this consciousness. And for me, that's one of the many reasons for satsang. Satsang is just remembering, just helping each other to remember who we truly are. And it's kind of an amplification when there's a few more people, and also people around the world, when we all kind of bring that attention to space. I remember one saying I heard Osho say, which somehow blew my mind because it's so simple. Somebody asked him, Osho, I really can't be focused. I'm trying so hard. I'm studying, and I really want to focus. And the more I meditate, I cannot focus anymore. And Osho laughed and said, why be focused when you can be aware? Focus gives you a very limited vision field. Only that where your whole attention moves to one thing and everything is excluded, and you get very tense usually. Awareness is 360 degrees. Like presence. What is. Anything to say?
Rahasya, that conversation.
Come here. Come here. Because they need to see you and they need to hear you. Yes, this conversation. This is Greg, by the way.
The conversation about feelings and emotions is such an important one that I'm hearing again and again at lots of different conferences and summits around the world. And in fact, there's a book that's just come out recently, and the lady has put the proposition, you've probably heard it many times before, I haven't, for us to let go of the idea of there being good and bad and unpleasant ones or pleasant ones. They're emotions. They all serve a purpose. They all have a story. And to be with them, and her technique is quite important, I feel. But the phrase that I often hear is, we must learn to, your friend in Germany, we must learn to turn and face. Mm-hmm. I don't like using the terminology of confronting. I don't think that's the correct terminology, but to turn and face. And I'm just wondering whether you can elaborate a little bit further specifically on what your technique of turning and facing is.
No technique.
There's no technique?
No. Turning and facing is like an awakening. It's like, I'm turning away from something. I'm resisting something. Now I'm resisting my cough. Hold a second. So, confronting is a good beginning because it shakes your structure. So, I don't know if there's old Punaites here when we did encounter groups. Anybody encounter group? Yeah? Beating the shit out of each other and screaming and yelling and confronting. It was helpful to break my ice, yeah, okay. But it didn't awaken me to awareness. So, but it helps. You know, we are all in different different stages in our life and in our evolution. No? Some of us need to bang a pill because our partner has pissed us off, and we get so angry, and we need to release that anger somewhere. Some of us can, instead of throwing it out, we can just experience it, just feel it as an physical and emotional experience in the body, and not move away from it. So then when you say turning, it still is a direction. For some of us that's helpful. But more than that is neither going away nor turning, but remembering to allow the space to hold the opposites. This is, the talk about good and bad, and that we can get good and bad because they're both part of one thing. That is not a technique. If you try a technique, then you put sugar over shit. Then you put I should be like this, because this is the right way to do it and this is the wrong way to do it. But that which we are is already choiceless awareness.
Okay.
So how to remember this? These days I love to remember it directly, with no technique, with no practice, with no how to. Because unfortunately, if you look in the internet, it's unbelievable how many how to. And then it gives you an illusory future that you can reach, and you can pay good money for it. It's not wrong. It's a stepping stone. No? until you're finished with how to, because you're already alive. Why how to? That which, and this is my interest in the moment. You see the the connection between our incredible gifts that we all have and emptiness. How do they relate? How does awareness, the awareness that I am, the consciousness that I am, the love that I am, the space that I am, how can that turn and manifest into the colors of life while I'm in the body and while I am a personality? And we are so gifted. Some of you were in the in the Blessing the Energy Centers in the Temple Byron meditation. It's a beautiful meditation. It's like instead of turning your focus on what doesn't work and how to release your abundance blocks and I don't know what else you can do, I mean many, many how-tos, into, oh, I'm actually the same, I'm one space, I'm one with everything, and everything that happens in me, which means there's infinite potential that when I bring my attention to something that I discover inside, it can flower. Was that too complicated? A little bit, no? So, it's not a becoming, it's like a flowering, you know. The rose doesn't have a technique or an effort to move from a bud to a rose. So the potential essence of a rose is the color is already there, and it grows into itself more and more because it surrenders to the whole. You know, and when if we surrender to the whole, then we disappear as a separate sense of self. And then whatever gift is there has space. And then, since we love the illusion of free will, then we can support that space, no? And go for it. So there's different levels, no? And turning around and facing it is one level. It's great. No?
Okay. But not go up to the top. Not to go into your head and try to intellectualize it or whatever.
You can do that, and you drive people crazy then, and yourself. Because the head is division. Shall I do it this way or that way? Shall I go up or down? Shall I go right or left? It's always schizophrenic. It's always kind of many, many choices. Because your thoughts are not your thoughts. They are thoughts from so many people and collective and clouds. I mean, it's a thought sphere.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we meditate a little bit more, huh? A little silence. When I hear myself, I've been talking a lot. So, use this. Are your grandkids waiting? Yes, that's so. Use this, you know, these 15 minutes, and see if you remember, whenever you remember, to put your attention on the space in which, and if you prefer to translate the word space into love, translate it into love. But the word love is quite charged. No? It kind of, it can be very romantic. But love is actually space. Let's sit for a little bit, and then we see. When we have our attention on the space, it may be impossible for the mind, because mind can only touch objects, like thoughts are objects, feelings are objects, body is object. So perhaps for some of us it's easier to feel that any experience, a beautiful experience or a painful experience, is already held in space. It's like without the background, without the real me, there wouldn't be any experience. You can make it very practical. If there's anything you struggle with right now, feel it held in the tenderness of space. Feel every experience, good or bad, held in the tenderness of space. Love, love, as kind. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It's always a gift, and thank you everyone around the world to be with us. Now, if you get turned on by meditation and satsang, every Friday evening we continue, since I'm here now, and we're going to have a 3-day silent retreat here. It's going to be a very limited number, and we just meditate a lot. We sit a lot in silence. The breaks are in silence, and we have question and answers and satsang and some talks. Maybe we listen a little bit to Osho. Sometimes we can, depending on the weather, we have some silent walks, and it's beautiful. It's like a retreat into yourself and total space for yourself. And that's from the 24th to the 26th of July. We still have a few places available, so you're very welcome. And if anyone is interested in the Transforming Lives training, I don't have the exact dates yet, but let me know. It's a beautiful training. It's basically the concentration of everything I kind of learned about being with myself and being with people. And it's quite a full training for anyone. It helps people who already work with people, and it helps people to work with themselves, or to wake up for themselves. I don't like the word work so much. No? Have a wonderful evening. Thank you for today. And hope to see you next time. And thank you everyone around the world.